The law of the latched door. The myth of the perpetual open gate. Modern religion is in a state of terminal exhaustion because we have fundamentally misunderstood the structural mechanics of the door. Soft, market-tested theology has conditioned us to view grace as a revolving door, a passive mechanism that spins according to human convenience. We assume we can stand outside the threshold indefinitely, managing our earthly assets, validating our old creation habits, and assuming the frame will always yield to our touch. But the New Testament blueprint does not map a revolving door. It maps a latched door. The door is an active, responsive legal barrier. If you do not understand the law of the latched door, you will waste your limited spiritual capital funding an old ecosystem, only to find yourself locked on the outside of a structural finality. Movement 1. The interior lock, bypassing the machine. Our understanding of this mechanism begins in a dark room in Jerusalem, immediately after the cross executed the old timeline. The religious establishment was in a high production fury, and the remnant responded with intentional isolation. Then the same day at evening, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. John chapter 20 verse 19. The disciples did not open the doors to compromise or dialogue with the hostile institutional machine. They pulled the bolt. They locked the sanctuary from the inside out to eliminate the noise, the analytics, and the fleshly pressure of a corrupted religious system. When you fire the human foreman and shut out the corporate entertainment machine, the religious elite will claim you are isolating your light. But look at the legal mechanics. Physical walls cannot restrict the oneness deity. Jesus did not stand outside knocking on an institutional gate. The moment they created a clean, separated vacuum by throwing the interior latch, the risen Christ materialized directly in the center of their space. You do not need market-tested production lines to summon the presence of God. You need to throw the interior lock. You must close the door to the scaffolding of this world so the raw frequency of the word can vibrate inside your bones. Movement 2. The marketplace hustle and the closed invitation. While the true remnant locks themselves in to separate from the machine, the religious consumer locks themselves out because they are trapped in the marketplace hustle. In Matthew chapter 25, the foolish virgins possessed the outward forms, the high production lamps, but lacked the internal oil. The moment the midnight cry rings out, they leave the environment to buy from the marketplace, relying on human effort and institutional formulas to manufacture what they missed. And while they are caught in that fleshly hustle, the structural latch drops, and the door was shut. Jesus explains the exact bioenergetic law behind this closed latch in the parable of the great banquet. A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, I have just bought a field, and I must go and see it. Another said, I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm on my way to try them out. Still another said, I just got married, so I can't come. Luke chapter 14 verses 16 to 20. These guests are explicitly stating, our metabolic capital is entirely tied up in the old creation. We are spending our energy funding assets, testing labor systems, and managing earthly relationships. We lack the internal resources to adapt to your new environment. This is spiritual maladaptation. They treat the master's banquet as an open-ended option. But the owner of the house does not negotiate with their schedules. He pulls a sudden, sharp lever, shifts the entire operation to the outcasts in the highways, and issues an unyielding decree. I tell you, not one of those who were invited will get a taste of my banquet. Luke chapter 14 verse 24. While you are trying to balance the ledger of your old life, the invitation is permanently revoked. You cannot fund 2 worlds at once. Movement 3. The straight gate and the lethal filter. The closing of the door is an active, defensive reaction to a collapsing habitat. Matthew chapter 24 outlines the environmental backdrop: false prophets rising, deceptions multiplying, lawlessness abounding, and the love of many growing cold. The world outside the room is an entropic storm. In the middle of this rising darkness, Jesus issues a severe command: strive to enter in at the straight gate. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in, and shall not be able. When once the master of the house is risen up, and hath shut to the door, and ye begin to stand without, and to knock at the door, he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence ye are. Luke chapter 13 verses 24 to 25. The Greek word for strive is agonizomai, to strain every nerve, to strip off every ounce of unneeded weight, to align your coordinates precisely with the narrow gate. You must strain because the master of the house is standing up to pull the lever. The time for left-brain analytical evaluation, institutional debate, and compromise is over. The cross of Jesus Christ is a lethal filter designed to bring the entire genetic lineage of the old Adam to an absolute halt. You cannot squeeze your earthly fields, your yoke of oxen, or the baggage of your defensive ego through a straight gate. If you attempt to save the life of the old self, you will be left standing in the pitch blackness of a locked habitat. Conclusion: the vacuum of the present room. The latch is dropping. The era of playing games with the corporate religious machine and balancing the metabolic tax of a dead world is finished. The master has risen up. The door is closing on the old creation. Drop the weight of your earthly excuses right now. Let the old Adamic code go completely extinct. Throw the interior bolt, silence the human foreman, and step inside the room before the structural lock clicks into place with absolute finality. We are locking the door from the inside out. The room is quiet. The analytics are dead. The instrument is tuned. And now, standing inside this pristine, uncompromised vacuum, we are finally ready to unroll the blueprint and step into the multi-dimensional glory of the New Jerusalem. Let the latch drop. Amen.